We like to think of ourselves as the most advanced civilization that has ever existed. Better tools, better science, better technology than anything that came before us. But there is a very specific kind of question that historians and material scientists have been quietly sitting with for decades, and the answer to that question does not support that assumption at all. The question is simple: why can't we replicate it? I'm recording this from Bali, Indonesia, where I've spent the last month surrounded by tropical beaches, stone temples, and hand-carved architecture that took generations of craftsmen to produce. And spending time here, looking at what human hands achieved without industrial machinery, got me thinking about a category of historical evidence that almost never makes it into mainstream conversation. There are things our ancestors made, in the medieval period, in antiquity, in eras we routinely describe as primitive, that modern technology, with all its precision instruments and computational power, simply cannot match. Not approximately, not yet, simply cannot. This isn't speculation, it's the admission of researchers, conservators, and material scientists who have spent careers trying to figure out how these things were made. Here's what they found. Quick pause before we get into it. This channel went quiet for over a month while I was traveling, and it means a lot to come back to viewers still here. If you're new, consider subscribing. If you've been here before, a like on this video genuinely helps. Thank you. Let's continue. Start with something you can see immediately. Look at these two veiled sculptures side by side. One is modern, one was carved in the 1700s. The difference is not subtle. The medieval work shows a translucent veil in solid marble. You can see the face through the stone as clearly as through fabric. The folds, the drape, the weight of it, all carved from a single block of marble with hand tools. Stone carvers today, using modern equipment, cannot consistently achieve this. The medieval version remains the technical benchmark. Now look at the stained glass windows of medieval cathedrals, the rose windows of Chartres and Notre Dame, some of which are 800 years old and still intact. Modern glass manufacturers have spent decades trying to understand the optical properties, translucency, and structural durability of medieval glass. The chemistry of some of the original formulas has never been fully decoded. When modern studios attempt to produce comparable glass for restoration work, the results are consistently measurable as inferior under technical analysis. And then there's painting. An article from Web Art Academy puts it plainly, and this is a mainstream source, not an alternative history site. Somewhere around the end of the 17th century, the painting methods of the old masters were, in their words, mysteriously lost. The techniques of Titian, Rubens, Rembrandt, Velázquez have never been successfully replicated despite advances in material science. Some Renaissance paintings are so precise, individual strands of hair rendered at widths thinner than a human hair, that researchers have speculated whether conventional brushwork could have produced them at all. The 1836 painting Saint Cecilia and the Angels by Paul Delaroche was reportedly criticized at the time for being too perfect. That kind of criticism tells you something about the standard being set, and we don't know how they did it. The technical treatises that were written are, according to the same article, scant and do not give enough information to form the basis of practical experiments. The paintings are one thing, but the materials themselves, the metals, the dyes, the mortar used to build cathedrals, those tell an even stranger story. Damascus steel is one of the most studied metallurgical mysteries in history. The blades, made from wootz steel ingots featuring that distinctive wavy pattern, were produced until roughly the 18th century. Then the process disappeared. Modern analysis has revealed why we can't replicate them. The original manufacturing process created carbon nanotubes within the blade's microstructure, a level of precision we typically associate with 21st century material science. The specific combination of impurities, temperatures, and cooling cycles that produced this structure has not been successfully reverse engineered. Then there's Gothic mortar, the binding material used in the cathedrals that have stood for 800 to 1,000 years and show no structural failure. Modern material scientists have analyzed it extensively. Their findings? It has self-healing properties. When small cracks form, Rainwater dissolves free lime within the structure, which then redeposits and hardens, sealing the crack from the inside. We do not use this formula today, not because we've improved on it, but because Portland cement, introduced in the 19th century, was faster to set and cheaper to produce. But Portland cement is brittle, non-porous, and causes stone to crack when used in repairs on historic buildings. Modern conservation work now attempts to reverse engineer the original lime mix. The original formula included animal blood, egg whites, and milk as plasticizers. We cannot reliably reproduce the results. Tyrian purple dye, the deep purple produced from the murex sea snail, used in Roman imperial textiles and Byzantine court garments, was lost by the 14th century. Modern attempts to produce it in quantity are prohibitively expensive, and the chemical process that produced the ancient color depth is not fully understood. And then there's Zwischgold, a medieval German technique producing a bilayer metal foil of gold over silver, used in 14th to 16th century art. Modern analysis using X-ray computed tomography has shown that the gold layer in these foils is often less than a fraction of a human hair in thickness. The researchers who published these findings described the medieval production method as reflecting high-precision technology. We have not replicated it at equivalent scale. Crystal lenses found in 11th century Viking graves exhibit aspheric optical quality, meaning they correct for the kind of distortion that flat lenses produce at the edges. Modern optical labs have examined these lenses and confirmed that their elliptical curvature achieves a quality that, using the tools theoretically available in the 11th century, should not have been achievable. The technique used to grind them remains unknown. Medieval astronomical clocks present a different kind of problem. These are mechanical devices, geared brass mechanisms, that modeled planetary motion with enough long-term accuracy to remain useful for navigation and calendar calculation over centuries. The gear trains involved epicyclic and irregular mechanisms that required hand calibration to maintain precision over time. Modern horologists who have studied the most famous surviving examples, particularly those from the 14th and 15th centuries, describe them as confounding, even with contemporary tools and knowledge. The originals run for longer without recalibration than modern replicas can achieve. Guilloche enamel, the intricate geometric patterning under translucent enamel seen in medieval jewelry, produces an optical depth that shifts with the viewing angle. The best modern watchmakers, including Patek Philippe, one of the most expensive watch manufacturers in the world, have attempted to reproduce antique guilloche and produce results that experts consistently rate as inferior in depth and precision. And then there is the Stradivarius. The sound of a Stradivarius violin, the particular timbre and resonance of the instruments produced by Antonio Stradivari between roughly 1680 and 1720, has not been matched by any violin built since. This has been tested under controlled conditions with professional musicians and acoustic analysis. The wood treatment, varnish composition, and dimensional relationships of the originals remain the subject of active research. The results of that research have not produced a comparable instrument. There are now more than 1,100 years of human civilization in which we built things, made things, and designed things, and in a remarkable number of cases, we cannot tell you how. The standard assumption is that our ancestors were less capable than us because they had fewer tools. The evidence in this video suggests the opposite question deserves more serious attention. What did they know that we no longer do? Damascus steel, Gothic mortar, veiled marble, crystal lenses, astronomical clocks, Stradivarius violins, old master paintings, Zwischgold foil, all of them unsolved, all of them older than our best current explanations for how they were made. We're not at the top of a rising line. That's worth thinking about. If this gave you something to think about, share it. And check out the other videos on this channel while you're here.